Hi friends, day 9, Rediscover Jesus. I pray your journey's been going well. Today we focus on Jesus being the greatest teacher ever. Indeed, Jesus' teachings prove that that statement is true. He is the most powerful and the greatest teacher ever. Jesus breaks down the way to God clearly. Notice that Matthew talks about the difference between being simple and easy. Simple means easy to understand. Easy means maybe easy to follow or not difficult to follow. So Jesus' teachings are simple to understand, but difficult to follow. Because again, the heart and the mind of God is quite complex. But notice how easy it is for Jesus to break down the mind of God to a level that we can understand. How often he would use parables and stories and metaphors to allow the people of his time and each of us to come to understand what Jesus is trying to say. He's trying to get us to be more like God. He's trying to teach us God's priorities. God's priority is the only priority. Love of him, love of neighbor, and then love of self. Everything I say, everything I do, should be reflected on that priority. J-O-Y, Jesus, others, you. While the gospel message is extremely difficult to live by, it's simple to come to understand. I don't think there's any of us who would say that I don't understand what Jesus actually is calling me to do. He's calling us to love. He's calling us to forgive. He's calling us to be compassionate. The preferential option for the poor signifies that they shouldn't be an afterthought. Rather, they should be always in the forefront of our mind. As the Holy Father, Pope Francis, continues to tell us, we need to go to the periphery of our society and reach out to the needs of our brothers and sisters. As we heard that yesterday, Jesus was quite radical in his teachings. Indeed, we need to realize that the Master Teacher is calling us to be different, to think differently, to act differently. Jesus is interested at transforming the human heart. We need to spend time, my friends, pondering the Gospels like Mary. We need to not roll our eyes. I've heard that gospel story before. The feeding of the 5,000, the golden rule, Peter's denial. We've heard them before, but what does it mean for us? Every time I hear that story, I should be transformed by what it means. How can Rico grow in holiness? How can you grow in holiness? We need to come to understand the meaning of these passages for my life, for your life. For indeed, they aren't just stories from some 2,000 years ago. Rather, and Matthew defines pondering as considering something deeply, to thoroughly meditate upon it. It's an engagement in a spiritual exercise, something that Mary did throughout her life, something that we should be doing throughout our daily life too. It's creating this spiritual awareness. Mary was the first to ponder the Gospels. She's inviting us to do the same by her last words in Scripture, as she says to the servants at the wedding of Cana and to all of us, do whatever he tells you. Mary came to understand the radical nature of her son's teachings. She wants us to be radical as well. So as Matthew asks us what Jesus' most radical teaching is, I guess we could all have an opinion, but I might suggest this idea of loving your neighbor. Pray for those who persecute you. Love your enemies. I've never heard this before. If Jesus is the master teacher and calling us to do this, what does that look like for you? Jesus' words have impacted human history in a very influential way. Do you consider Jesus to be your master teacher? Enjoy today's reflections, my friends. God bless you.